To say there are serious questions about President Trump's actions as president would be an understatement of the year. Just look at last segment. Now, we seem to talk about 3 to 4 of these every single night. It is not normal. Like the way the president enriches himself every time he plays golf at one of his courses. Your tax money at work there, going right into his pocket, the cost of his entourage, etc. Or Air Force bunking at a crew resort, for example, in Scotland. Or the money foreign governments and the people seeking influence spending at his D.C. hotel, or his bid to host the G7 summit at, I don't know, the Doral Resort in Florida. Sounds like a great idea. Now, don't forget about Trump obstructing justice, of course. His former campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, treating a House subcommittee yesterday with contempt, also confirmed what sure looks like obstruction to just about everyone. Now, Lewandowski confirmed that Trump asked him to meet with then Attorney General Jeff Sessions to get Sessions to fire Bob Mueller. For anyone other than the president, that would be obstruction. And yet, Democrats in Congress have done nothing to hold him accountable, at least nothing that's worked. The big question now is why? Well, for more on both Trump and Kavanaugh, we turn to Amanda Marcotte. Amanda is a politics writer for Salon, and she joins us now. She's also the author of Troll Nation, focusing on how the Republican Party got itself wrapped around Trump's little finger. Amanda, thanks again for the time. You know, when we booked this was even prior to the latest revelations coming out of the whistleblower. And as it relates to that story, the thing that has shocked me the most is I would think there's certain issues where it's not as polarizing in terms of party lines. I would think the idea, because one day, you know, the Republicans are going to have a Democratic president, one would think, and they certainly wouldn't want the same rules applied that we're seeing now to Trump or the passes that he's given. Yet they don't. From what you found in both your book and in covering these 3 stories, the latest revelations regarding Kavanaugh, the radio silence on the right, and the same thing on all the corruption probes regarding the president, and now this, I know why they're not doing anything about it and they're staying mum, the Republicans, but do they at least know the risks attached to it when there is another president from another party sitting in the Oval?
I mean, I think they don't really care because everything that they're doing right now, if a Democrat does even like a tenth of it next time they're in office, they're going to cry foul no matter what and say that the rules were being broken and will get umbrage and do all of that stuff. They don't really care. Yes, it's a double standard, but I would say that the typical Republican politician, if not voter, thinks that Democrats having power at all, Democrats winning elections at all is illegitimate, and so they don't see a problem with treating them differently.
You wrote a recent piece titled "Fighting Trump on Corruption is a Winning Strategy, but Democrats have to lean into it." Have you seen signs that the party's changing? And I say that in context where after, you know, every mass shooting, there seems to be a rinse and repeat in the media cycle and they're gone. But they've stayed on this for the better part of the last month and a half. And there seems to be full intentions to make this an issue all the way through next November for the election. Yet they seem really conflicted when it comes to impeachment. As a party, I've always thought their problem is they look at every single poll and say, we're going to win next November, but 2016 happened and we were in the same spot then. They feel that there's a risk if they push too hard because they might basically blow a winning hand. You believe they have to get over that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Democrats, and I understand it, to be very clear, I understand being fearful. I understand being traumatized, really, after what happened in 2016 and being skittish. But what I would say is, you know, not to like overdo this sports metaphor, but it really is the difference between playing to win versus playing not to lose. And everybody in sports knows that if you do the latter, you're more likely to lose. And I think that's very true in politics. And I think particularly against an opponent like Donald Trump, who communicates only through bluntness, communicates only through simplistic narratives, ones that kind of cut through the noise very easily. And this Democrats taking this like hyper nuanced, subtle approach to politics, it's just, they can't compete.
You say, listen, it should be easy to paint the president as a criminal here, but yet as a party, they don't do it. Is they don't do it because they can't find the bumper sticker messaging for it, or that they don't want to go that far, they're still half pregnant?
I think it's because they don't want to go that far, that they're still half pregnant. I mean, I really do think that there is this concern that impeachment is going to backfire because it is inherently a chaotic system. And when you're in such a chaotic situation, it's often feels easier to like not do anything at all because you don't know how to control the outcome. And I understand why one might feel that way, but the problem is when you don't do anything at all, you also can't control the outcome. So you might as well go for the fences. You might as well try. Because at least if you're trying, people will see you trying and they may reward you for that. Right now, the Democrats are running a very strong risk of disgusting their own voters and turning them off.
But then there's that question of degree. And there was a few examples just this week where, I had somebody said, for a fact, if the Republicans were in the same situation, they would talk openly about trying to stack the court, talking about the Supreme Court. They would completely go all in here if the roles were reversed and do like what Beto O'Rourke said and do the equivalent of, doing a gun grab or whatever and going that far. But whether it's in the DNA or not, the Democrats almost have too much of a target-rich environment to go after. Too many things. They'll be seen as basically, every day using all their time on investigations. I mean, look, you can credibly say that you can make an argument for not only impeachment of the president, but also impeachment of Brett Kavanaugh, given the new revelations. We know that won't ever pass, but the other side would try it. Is there a risk, not just of overplaying it, but of doing so many things, the public, it gets lost in this news wash?
There's a real risk of that. I mean, I think we're looking at that problem right now. Like, the Democrats say that this is an impeachment hearing, but they haven't really committed fully to it. So it gets kind of ignored because there's so many other things going on all the time, and including, the just relentless amount of noise that Donald Trump pumps into the environment. So what I would actually say is cut a lot of the fat out and focus on impeachment. Start calling it impeachment. Start talking about Donald Trump's corruption every day. Be very repetitive, be very focused, be very disciplined. And I don't think that they should be too confused about this. There's plenty of research showing that the Donald Trump is a crook message actually plays well with the kind of voters they're trying to get, those swing voters.
One final example we were talking about was obviously the Lewandowski hearings, which devolved into inanity. But that said, and you said in your column, there was some meaningful stuff that came out of it, but who the hell is he to, have the temerity to basically tell Congress to go scratch? He'll claim basically, that, rights that aren't really given to him right now, privilege being one of them. I mean, by any standard, he should have been cited for contempt. But it took days for the Democrats to finally say, yeah, maybe he did. It seems like they're not going in prepared for what they should at this point expect.
I really wish we didn't have to live in an environment where politicians had to play for the cameras, but more than ever they do. Because again, Donald Trump, he's bad at a lot of things, but he's good at TV because he was a reality TV star. He really knows how to play this game. And unfortunately, the Democrats have got to learn to compete on doing good TV. Lewandowski's hearing was below the fold on the New York Times and the Washington Post front page the next day. You know what would have put it above the fold? Citing him for contempt, possibly arresting him, doing things of that nature. That's how you get attention. That's how you drive home a narrative. I understand that that's not how they've been operating, but if they don't learn fast, I really do worry about the 2020 election.
And on that uplifting note, Amanda, thank you for a few minutes. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, coming up next, the new session of the Supreme Court opens in just a few weeks with a slew of big issue divisive topics on their docket. But the court's 3 female justices, they're all sounding the alarm about the court's future as well as present. We got analysis from a SCOTUS expert. That next.